part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Hey, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to Cavs on the Break NBA podcast, all part of the Press Play Podcast Network. John Sabol alongside Chase Smith. We are your two hosts today. Jeremy and Akron and Sam Amico taking the evening off. And boy, what an evening to take off with the Cavs starting a 3-game road trip with a bad loss in New York. Chase, we'll get into that momentarily. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. I feel good with you running point. I like it. I'll just be running off screens, getting open. But you do your thing, man.
You know, you're usually the floor general here, but it's like if you have that little hammy injury or a bum ankle that I got to lift the load a little bit, I'll be more than happy to do that. Not saying you have either one of those, but.
You know, I think we're just trying out rotations here at Cavs on the Break.
We're trying
to see what works here. And, you know, we got some time. This is what this time's for. We got time. We got the All-Star break coming up, and then we got to make sure we're in our stride for the playoff push. So I'm feeling good about what we're trying out tonight.
We're doing rotations like JB Bickerstaff's rotations. I like to think, though, ours are a little better.
Now, hold on. Okay. I have a couple of issues here. JB Bickerstaff gets a lot of crap. Evan Mobley, even though he had 38 points against the Bucks and his best game, I think, of his career, he's gotten a lot of crap this season.
Yes.
Can we just hold off on giving people crap?
Well,
can we hold off on Bickerstaff until we see him not do well in the playoffs?
If that's what you want me to promise before playoffs start, I can do that for you.
Because now I can't his team playing hard.
He does. Absolutely.
He has them playing incredible defense. He has them bought into a team mentality of myself, of everyone else above myself. And when you're a coach with a bunch of young guys, I don't know. I mean, you're coaching with time with a young team like this. And if you have them enjoying playing for each other, enjoying the team concept with a healthy team culture, then he's doing a good job. Let's wait to see what happens in the playoffs.
I was kind of half joking about the rotations, and I completely agree with you. If you remember this time last year on this pod with you, I said at this moment in January of 2022, JB Bickerstaff was the NBA Coach of the Year because of what he was doing with the Cavs. And then all the injuries happened, and then they couldn't get out of the way. And then he fell down out of the top three there in coaches. I do like him. I think some of his rotations are suspect and can be debated.
He's figuring it out. It's like a kid on Christmas. He has so many new toys he didn't have earlier.
Yeah.
Rubio's back. Dean Wade's back.
Coming
I think
back.
he's trying to figure this out.
And that's all fair, and I agree. And I think you're right. The one thing that is never, I think, is understated, and this is also a props to Kobe Altman and Mike Gansey, is that they have put this team in position with the character, attitude, and skill level, and then JB's been able to get more out of them. So that's a compliment to the organization, to everyone. I'm half joking about JB's thing, but if I had to knock him on one thing, because no one's perfect, it would be on the rotations. Other than that, I think he's a good coach for what they're doing. Although
heavy is the crown, man. When you're the coach, heavy is the crown.
Yeah. Although to your point, if we get to playoff time and things, fumble, whether it's his fault or players or whatever, they'll really get under the microscope.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about the trade deadline in the next couple episodes with Sam and the whole team here, but I think they're going to take that into consideration when they look for players.
Well, they have to.
Yeah. They're going to look at, hey, what's their character like? How have they been as a teammate with other teams that they've played with? I think like they're not going to want to bring in some unknown like Agent X to the team just to like potentially destroy anything. And I think even who they trade could cause some ripples. And like if they trade, like what if they trade Kevin Love, who I'm sure is like valued as a veteran on the team who's been in the community for a long time. What if they do trade Isaac Okoro, who seems to have connected with this young core and has gained their respect because of how hard he works? What if they trade a Karis LeVert who has, sacrificed a lot of what he does for, like, I think it's got to be and they've made all the right moves so far. but I think it's got to be to not mess up what they have now. I think it's got to be the perfect move for the perfect person for everything has got to fit.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to risk damaging the team chemistry just to get a need. I don't think they're going to do that.
I would agree with you 100%. And
thank you.
You're right. We will talk more about trade deadline as we get closer. We are 2.5 weeks away. So we've got really next week and the week after of the deadline coming up on it. I believe it's February 9th.
Yeah. February 9th is a deadline. So we have after this 2 more scheduled shows.
Yep. So let me just say this about that real quick before we really get into everything. I think the options are on the table that guys that will be looked at potentially being dealt are Kevin Love, even though I'm not sure what his return will be. Dylan Windler.
His return is a chance at Wembanyama. That's the return is for someone.
Yeah. The which I believe the Pistons are in full tank mode, which would be another reason for them to unload Bogdanovich, but I'm not sure the Cavs.
There's
really
a name
that
when I saw, I was like salivating over. I texted to my best friend. I was like, oh my gosh, if this guy goes on the Cavs, we're never losing another game.
Who is it?
Do I say it now or do I wait?
No, say it now. You can't just do that. Yeah.
Josh Richardson, baby J Rich.
Okay.
Dude, for the Spurs.
Yeah.
If
he's rumored.
A couple second round picks. Oh my gosh. Like perimeter D, corner 3. If that's my last year. I wanted Jaylen Brown. Remember when I wanted Jaylen Brown last year? That was a fleeting dream.
Well, at the time, this time last year, before the Celtics made that run, there was rumors that Boston would blow it up between Brown and Tatum. So you weren't off that basis to think of that. Mm-hmm. And by the way, your Josh Richardson take, and I wish if Sam were here, he would tell you the same thing. He would not require a lot into a trade, considering he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And
so talk about Spurs and tanking.
Yeah, that could be one, but also Doug McDermott's the other one down there.
I'd rather have Jay Rich. He gives more.
All
he's
right.
A better shot creator, better defender. I don't know if he's a better 3-point shooter, but I just think he's a better Levert.
Well, the guys that Sam has been writing on Hoops Wire and what we've been talking about that are potentially linked, Alec Burks,
sure,
Doug McDermott.
That's a JIA. He's been on that from the jump.
Well, and JIA's been was on Donovan Mitchell last February. Give credit when credit's due, if you remember.
Yeah. I don't know if that wasn't me. I need to go back and listen.
I distinctly think it was Jeremy.
Sure.
But
That's
you
fine.
may have chimed in too. Anyways, there's quite a bit there. We're not going to go deep into trade stuff today because there's a lot to unravel here because of where the Cavs are at, and they're at a pivotal moment where we think. If you haven't already, thank you so much for subscribing and following us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. You can follow me at John_Sabol. You can follow Chase at the Chase Smith as well. So if you guys ever have any topics or anything you ever want us to talk about on the pod, feel free to give us a tweet. Chase, let's first talk about this game. We got to break down a little bit what happened in this game tonight. And the biggest issue here, we haven't really addressed the elephant in the room, and that is Donovan Mitchell's injury. And then we'll talk about the big concerns we have going forward with this after the break. First, Cavs fall to the Knicks tonight, 105-103. And this is the first of a 3-game road trip. They head to Houston and Oklahoma City. Cavs had a chance to win it at the end. And Donovan Mitchell drove to the lane, went up and got a shot blocked, got fouled, but they didn't call it. And he landed awkwardly down on the floor. Evan Mobley had a chance to drain a mid-range jumper at the buzzer, but missed it. It looked like at first someone may have stepped on Mitchell because he's holding his right leg, but as you see the replay, no one stepped on him. And then we find out later that Mitchell said in the postgame that his groin tightened up and both his legs cramped when he jumped. Talk about a recipe for disaster. Which is the reason why Chase, he couldn't get any lift and got stuffed there at the rack.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about it. It happens to you all the time. I know it does.
Yeah, it stops me from dunking all the time.
Yeah. So first, they lost. We can go into the game as to why they lost. Very inconsistent. Mitchell had a slow start to it. Donovan still had 24 points. He picked up really well towards the second half. New York went on a 23-6 run from the end of the third to the beginning of the fourth, and Cavs were playing catch up. They made a run but just couldn't get the consistent stops and the consistent buckets down the stretch. So now we got issues with Donovan re-aggravating his groin. And there's two things from this game I think we need to talk about besides them losing. It's one, his injury. His groin is now re-aggravated. I don't see him playing on the rest of this road trip. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor. The second thing is what he said after the game when it came to his injury and when it came to blaming himself for the loss. I want to play his post-game sound real quick, Chase, and then I want to get your reaction from it. Okay?
Yep.
I went up to try and dunk it. Both my legs cramped, and my groin just tightened up and locked up on me. So it was three things happening at the same time. Awkwardly, no, it's just as soon as I jumped, and then I tried to get the rebound, and that was that. How are you feeling? All right.
Now, Donovan goes on to say, after explaining what happened, this is what he had to say about that final possession that turned out to be not ideal for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I screwed that up. Last 4 possessions. I can cry about the foul calls all I want. It's got to be more poised for our group. 1 turnover. Even though I feel like I should have been fouled, pull it out, run the play, get something. And then the same one where I airballed the left. That's on me. When I let the team down at the end of the game. We played a really good game up to that point, all of us. And, I didn't do my job.
Chase, your thoughts?
I mean, that's what you want to hear out of your star player, right? Out of a player you traded a bunch of assets for, that's going to be here for a long time. You want a player to take ownership of whenever they, don't come through like they expect to or like they have before in the past. I think he was kind of earning a bad rap in Utah for not only, only playing hard when he wanted to, but there was a couple playoff games where he forced a lot of offense. It was like, especially in his first couple years, is very much there he goes playing hero ball, almost shades of Russell Westbrook. And I think he's really kind of flipped that narrative here in Cleveland. He's playing hard on defense and knows when to pick his spots. And, if you want to be that all-star alpha best player, you got to, take ownership whenever you don't come through like that. And so, yeah, I heard a player who I think really always wants to win in Madison Square Garden. I think for whatever happened and about him not going to New York, I think he wants to just always show them what they've missed. And so I think he's bummed that he lost there. I didn't see the injury, so hopefully it's not bad. But yeah, I wasn't shocked that he played. I was like, oh, he's not going to miss a game at Madison Square Garden. And so it's what you want to hear out of your star player. And it just sounds like someone who is like really bummed that he couldn't pull it out. But that's just my opinion.
I again agree with you. I think that's exactly we're really not exciting debating here.
I'm about to award myself with the Junkyard Dog Award right now, man. I'm just going to put this on here.
Yeah, go throw that on there. What you listeners cannot hear or see, I should say, is Chase has a pseudo Junkyard Dog Award chain that he graciously sent me. And did Sam and Jeremy get one too?
They did.
Okay, so it wasn't just me.
No.
I thought I was special, Chase. No, I'm just kidding. It is a fake Junkyard Dog Award chain that I think you got at the Cavs team shop.
I did. I got all 4 of them there.
Phenomenal. Looks good on you.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, no, I mean, let's think about this here. You want a leader in that locker room. That's who it is. And he was that guy when they traded for him. And when you reflect on your errors and you accept your mistakes, that's what you want to do. You don't like when it happens, but it happens. That's life. That's sports. So I was happy to hear him say that. And I was watching that possession and was just like, what are we doing here? I think he forced it too much. In terms of him playing tonight, he was listed as probable last night after missing 3 games. Actually, Chase, I think you and Sam were at that game, covering that game when he got hurt.
We were.
An
Yes,
MLK day against the Pelicans.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say the Cavs rushed him back. I think that's unfair to say because we're not him. I mean, he was a shoot around yesterday morning, and I wasn't
38
there.
minutes tonight.
Yeah. I wasn't at shoot around yesterday morning, but one of my photographers from Fox 8 was, and I watched a little bit of video, and he looked fine. He was moving like nothing, no problem. So I think in situations like that, you default to a player, and that's what the Cavs did. And it's just one of those things where you just reaggravate. Here's the problem.
The issue I see with this game, man. We had 12 points off the bench.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. You're looking at my notes here, and this is what I said on Fox 8 tonight, by the way. You had 12 bench points.
Yeah.
Look at that box score again. What else do you see in that bench? 13 shot attempts from the bench. Yeah. I mean, it's just you Cavs got to get more help from guys, and they didn't. And if you really look at it, Allen, Garland, and Mitchell, all three of those guys combined for 70 of the Cavs, 103 points. Mobley had a decent night, I guess, 6 from 11, 12 points, but you need more out of him. LeVert had 9, and Rubio had 3, and Okoro had 9. That's your scoring. Yeah. Kevin Love's still not himself with that thumb injury. That's clearly affecting his shooting, and he only played 12 minutes tonight. Rubio's still on a minute restriction. We got to think about that. Chetty only played 3 minutes. Wade came back, played 4 minutes, and Lamar Stevens played 6 minutes. So they need depth. If anything, when you talk about a Cavs trade, yes, they need a wing. They need a wing, a 3 and D guy. Guy can hit the 3 and play D. But they also need depth too. And Wade getting back into the rotation, getting back to close to 100% will help in some of that depth. But I mean, if you're going to get depth in a trade, you're going to be giving up more than just, you're going to give up a player and probably picks at some point.
Yeah. Do you believe in Isaac Okoro yet?
So I will say this: you are the president and CEO of the Isaac Okoro fan club, are you not?
I proudly.
Yes, and you've been on this Okoro train for a long time.
Since the jump. Yep. Draft night. I said shades of Kawhi. That's where I was draft night. So yeah, I've always been high on Okoro.
He has made strides of late.
Shades of Bruce Bowen. I've adjusted my expectations.
But he's still not getting the consistent offensive numbers that the Cavs would like, but they're sticking with him. Yeah. And his usage, his minutes have gone up. I don't know if I don't see the guy that I think that they see in, though, if I'm being fair. I don't see it, and I don't think we'll ever see it.
He's excellent on defense.
Sure.
Even though he is getting better at the 3-point shot, because he is able to slash and drive so quickly, they have to do something with him on the wing as far as defense goes. And he's a hustler. He's a hard worker. I think he motivates other players to dive on the floor and to get after it and to get physical. He's the Cavs' most physical player. We're not a physical team. We're not a very intimidating, like, oh, we're going to really rough you up. Okoro and Lamar Stevens are those are the guys. That's it. And so we're super soft without him. And I think he's way more important to the team than people realize.
I don't discount his hustle or his defense. I think those are his 2 best qualities.
I mean, I don't know if did he guard Randall tonight? Because Randall had himself a night.
Randall really blew up tonight. They switched a little bit on him. I mean,
so whether it was
Randall had a
Mobley,
big 3 down the stretch, and I mean, he had 36 points. I mean, Julius Randle is not going to give you 36 points on a consistent clip like that when you're having a good defender on him. I mean, I know he averages 24.5 a game.
This was the perfect Thibodeau game. I just feel like it was wild. It's, even the end of the game, I think, Tibbs loves defensive chaos, and it just seemed like it was just a perfect Tibbs game. And yeah, I don't know. I love Isaac Okoro, and I'm going to keep beating that drum, Sabol. I'm there.
Well, you can keep beating that drum because I think the Cavs are going to continue to beat that drum and see what they do. I don't think he'd be traded though. I think it's kind of, I don't really think they want to trade him, but I also don't think anybody really wants him either. You know,
Oh, I think there'd be a market for him. I if they could get a big name, I think they would trade him.
What do you mean, Chase?
I mean, if you could have Isaac Okoro or
Do
like a Bridges from Phoenix.
Okay. I thought you were going to go
People
down
who aren't on the trading block. If there was a big name like that, then they would definitely do that.
I thought that was the door to open into talking about how you still want LeBron to come back. I thought you were going to go down that road. Well, I just
here's started.
Yeah. Here's my thing, Chase. What I don't understand is this is, there's one thing when you have, if you're a team that evaluates players, it's one thing to have expectations. And then when you see someone give a glimmer of hope or a glimmer of, scratch the surface a little bit of a certain talent or a skill set that you see, right? Just talking by the talent itself, not so much personality, not so much work ethic. Okay. He has all that, but they see something in Okoro is why they drafted him there and they've stuck with them. At times, though, it seems like the Cavs are forcing him on us because they're giving him the minutes. This is before Rubio came back. This is before Dean Wade came back, even before Kevin Love got injured his thumb. And at some point, that was doing a lot of damage to this team. Now, I'm not saying that's happening now because you do have those other three players, even though Love isn't himself with his thumb injury. That said, if they get into a point into this Donovan Mitchell injury lingers more, they may need to force somewhat of a trade to get more depth in addition to that wing and 3D type of player. And if they keep Okoro and they do get that other player, I don't see that development going very far. Of course, we're all hypothetically thinking here. I could see him his development sputter a little bit and head to the bench more. If that scenario played out.
I think he works too hard for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the players see that. I mean, Jarrett Allen was just like raving about how hard he works post game against the Pelicans and how they're not surprised at how he's grown because they've seen it in practice and it's starting to translate in the games. Like they're all rooting for him and want him to succeed. And they're all happy for him that he has improved a little bit. And I think he just works too hard. And you can't teach someone his defense. You can teach someone how to shoot. You can't teach someone his defense. And I think it's just too valuable. I think what he offers, I think that's too important.
You can teach someone to shoot, but doesn't mean you're going to be a shooter either. You either can shoot a ball or you can't. I would disagree with you on that take. Think about this. Could someone teach Shaquille O'Neal how to shoot free throws? No one ever taught him, or they tried and it never worked. Dwight Howard, was he effective 3 feet away from the hoop?
Did they want to? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I don't think you could teach, anybody can teach someone trying to shoot. It just depends if you are that shooter or not, is my point. Not everyone in the NBA are shooters. I don't know if Isaac Okoro is the shooter. I don't know if he's going to be that guy that's going to sit in the corner three and pop that three on a consistent clip, like a Bruce Bowen type, like we've compared him to, being a defensive stopper. I think that's a great player comp, and I think they'd love for him to develop in that. I have not seen enough out of him at a consistent clip for me to label and be really high on him.
I was looking at Basketball Reference, specifically these two players, and it was such a different league. He averaged like 1.5 threes like a game.
You're talking about Bruce Bowen?
Yeah. And he would either make one or like 2 of 3 or like 1 of 3. And that's how he got his like percentage to be like 0.399 or whatever. Cause they just like shot so little. Ice is shooting like 3 a game. It's just different.
The game is different. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be an interesting rest of the season, how they use him and if they make a trade, because I don't know, in my opinion, Chase, if you keep Isaac Okoro and he doesn't develop into that, what are you then going to do? I mean, you already picked up his option, but what else are you going to, where do you see him fitting into this as a seventh man off a bench?
He is going to supplant Donovan Mitchell as the best scorer in Cavs. I don't know. No, I think what they have going for him is he knows what role they need him to play. Is every player knows, like, the roles are defined, John, which is a benefit of the team. They know what they need from Allen. They know what they need from Mobley, and these players know. Garland knows, like, everyone knows their role, and that's important as well. I think we're going to see his 3-point percentage continue to increase. I think he's going to get to the 0.4 to 5, whatever we need him to be. I think he's going to get there. I really do. And when he does, I'll be the one with I believe in Isaac Okoro shirt, sign, and just banging that drum, man.
Yeah, and it's again nothing personal. It's just I think he's a great kid. I've got a chance to talk to him a few times. I just think for what they would want out of him, it just hasn't been able to give him in terms of the offensive production. And someone would say, Chase, well, he doesn't need to be that guy because you do have Mitchell and you do have Garland and you do have Mobley and Allen. That's fair, but too many times I've seen wide open shots that he's missed. And that's not why the Cavs lost tonight by any means.
Right.
They did not play well for a while. They came out with less energy than the Knicks. And Donovan had a slow start, obviously, but they were a little lax on some defensive series there too. So, you're just looking at some concerns, which isn't our big concerns. And speaking of we're going to go into why Chase and I have our expectations and other concerns that we want to look for in this team going forward here as we approach the trade deadline and we get to the All-Star break, something that we're going to keep our eyes and ears out to look for. We're going to get into all that coming up right after this break.
The wait is over. DrafKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is officially live in Ohio. And now you can legally bet on all your favorite sports anytime and anywhere right here in the great state of Ohio with DraftKings. And for a limited time, new customers who sign up with the promo code P3Cavs will receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings says the best features including same-game parlays, player props, and more with fast and easy payouts right at your fingertips. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. New customers can use promo code P3Cavs to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DrafKings Sportsbook. Remember, use the promo code P3Cavs. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 years or older, physically present in the state of Ohio. Valid one offer per first-time depositors who have not already redeemed $200 in free bets via pre-launch offer. Minimum $5 deposit and wager, $200 issued as bonus bets. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/OH for terms.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it. Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
What's up, everyone? Chase Smith here, host of the Chase Smith podcast, and my podcast reflects who I am.
my hobbies, my interests, my passions, my curiosities, my careers, my questions, and my family. I'll spend time talking about all types of sports, movies, TV shows, trending news stories, and other cultural events, and even faith. This is who I am, and I hope I can get to know you as well. Join me on the Chase Smith podcast, and let's have some thought-provoking conversations, only on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome back, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. John Sabol and Chase Smith here with you. Before the break, we kind of teased some of the concerns and our expectations with this team going forward here as we approach the All-Star break and the trade deadline. We kind of touched a little bit on the trade deadline, mentioned a few different guys. We're going to be getting into some hardcore debates and talks here in the next 2 episodes next week and the week after, right before the February 9th deadline with Sam and the latest rumors, because we already saw one trade this week involving the Wizards and Lakers chase. So that's the first of the year in the 2023 calendar year. So we anticipate there's going to be some moves going around the league that Sam will keep us abreast to. And if you haven't already, continue to keep it your browser and apps locked and loaded to Hoops Wire, because Sam's been updating that like crazy.
Madman.
Yeah, I was reading his dribbles and some free agents and some latest trade rumors the other day, and I was texting with him about it. And man, there's a lot of options out there for the Cavs if they were to ever pull the trigger, if depending on what they would ever want. But who knows? They may not do anything either.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job touching base. It's going to be interesting to see. Whatever they do, we will be here with you on Cavs on the Break, live emergency reaction podcast. So we got you covered, whatever happens, let me tell you. And we're going to talk more about that over the next couple episodes. So
yeah, we'll get into it. Let's get into let's get into your expectations. You told me tonight before we were recording that your expectations for this Cleveland Cavaliers 2022-23 team have dropped.
Yes.
Why?
At the start of the season, I said we need to get out of the first round, and trading for Donovan Mitchell, giving up the assets we did, accelerated that timeline and expectation of the team's success. But just after seeing these other teams and watching the Cavs, they're just older, bigger, and stronger than what we are. They have more experience. Whether you're talking Celtics, Bucks, finals experience. 76ers have Eastern Conference Finals experience. The Nets, they're a team full of not maybe a team, but Kevin Durant, Kyrie. You just go through the list, and just the Cavs aren't there yet. We just don't have that pedigree. And, I do think we can do some damage. We don't have any. Donovan Mitchell's the only one who's had playoff experience. Kevin Love, I don't. So I just think I've come down to earth, and at this point, I just want to make the playoffs, John. Can I say that?
Yeah, and they're going to make the playoffs.
Are they?
You don't think
so? Are we
so?
having that conversation now? Because
wow, well, I guess
out, and
let's just say this: it is contingent on how bad this reaggravating injury is to his groin. That's all contingent on that.
If the Cavs is the playoffs, I don't think Bickerstaff is going to be the coach.
Wow, that is a bold take. However, again,
you can't trade all those first round picks and not make the playoffs after going to the play-in. After probably should have been in the playoffs last year. You can't take that step backwards,
right? But
over teams like the Bulls, the Hawks, the whatever's in the league.
But you're not going to penalize him last year for not getting the playoffs because of all the injuries. If hypothetically speaking, of course, let's say this lingering groin issue is something that's going to continue throughout the rest of the year. Are you still going to give JB a pass?
No.
Okay.
No, no. The Pacers, they shouldn't. We are better than the Pacers. Even the Heat, man. Jimmy Buckets, Bam. They have playoff grizzled. They're men. I look at this team and I'm like, we're just not tough. I don't know. And so I don't think our small guard play is going to translate well into the playoffs against a physical, seasoned East. And I think it's a legitimate concern. And I think maybe the trade for Mitchell more of a, we want to stay where we were last year than be better. I think last year they probably overachieved and they knew they needed a player like Mitchell to kind of stay at that level. And so that's kind of how I've recalibrated where I'm at.
Okay.
That we aren't as, we're hosting a whole playoff series. That's not going to happen.
Well, this is what we said in our preseason. Was it preseason outlook or whatever pod? I said the Cavs would, winning a first round series is a successful series for them, a successful year. And I still think they can do that. If you get in the play-in tournament that is not successful, regardless if you win or not, I think that's a bad situation for them. If they win, they move on. That's great. But I think you got to be striving for something bigger and better. And I think that's what they're doing. And I think eventually they will lock in probably anywhere between the 4 or 5 seed. And as it sits currently right now, and it is still very, very early, the Cavs are the 5th seed in the playoffs right now. If the playoffs were to start today, and they would play the Nets. So my concern is this: they have not played a consistent level of winning basketball for a month now. They did have a 3-game win streak right around New Year's Eve in the first of the year, but it's a lot of win, loss, win, loss. They have not been able to do anything consistently. And this whole clip here, this whole stretch in the last month has been very underwhelming. And I don't know if it's just a rut of the season. January basketball in the NBA to me is very boring. What I mean boring is not to a level of, oh, this game isn't exciting. It's the one month of the year where if you're going to have lulls in your team, no matter how good you are, it's going to happen in January and probably early part of February. Look at those LeBron Cavs teams. It happened all the time. The Warriors have been a victim of that in the past too. Then you see guys start to turn up a little bit. And I think that's where the Cavs are right now. But that being said, Chase, if this injury continues to bother Donovan Mitchell, if he doesn't fully get healthy, they're going to get in trouble. Yeah. If it's not serious and it doesn't linger and he doesn't tweak it again, the Cavs will probably still be a 4 or 5 seed. They're not catching the Bucks. They're not going to be catching the Celtics. And they're not going to catch the Sixers. The only reason why the Nets are where they are now, losers of 5 of the last 10, is because Kevin Durant is hurt and he's coming back. Trying to come back before the All-Star game.
If Buckets is back for the Heat, I mean, they got a game against them at the end of January. I hope we hang on to the 5th seed.
Yeah. Chase, what would you rather play? Would you rather be the 5th seed and play the Nets, or would you rather be the 6th seed and play the Bucks?
I don't think the Bucks will be at 3. I think they'll be at 2. I'd rather be the 6th seed and play the 76ers.
And I would agree. I'm just saying in terms of if they were to start today.
I would rather play the Bucks, to be honest, in the playoffs. I don't want to see Durant and Kyrie.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with you again. Man, I've been agreeing with you way too much today. This is boring. Sorry, guys, listening here.
Your dog right here.
There is the other issue too that I find that's very kind of concerning in terms of where this team is. And I don't know. Let me put it this way. You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned last year they overachieved, which I would agree. And then they all got hurt and everything folded, which absolutely sucked. That was bad. You make that trade for Donovan Mitchell and everyone is on, flying high, and they had that great start to the year. They had some big wins, and then they kind of fell flat and they came back to earth a little bit. And they haven't, like I said, haven't played some winnable games in a consistent rate here since the end of December. If you're not seeing a consistent play, and I'm not talking 38 points, Evan Mobley, but if you're not seeing Evan Mobley continue to try to emerge and be that guy that we have talked about, he hit that rookie wall last year, that sophomore, and he's hit like a little sophomore slump this year. If you don't see him get out of that here in the next month and a half, I'm talking, by the end of February, maybe early March, that's going to be a good barometer to see where he's going to help take this team into the playoffs when you peak getting into April. I need to see more out of Mobley. I'm not concerned. Concerned's not the right word. It's just something I want to look at here. Because if he continues to try to, if he makes that turn, I see you shaking your head. I need to see more out of him in the next 6 weeks. Because yes, you have Donovan Mitchell, but if he continues to grow and get to that level where we'd like him to go, or get better in that 6 weeks, or more consistent offensive production, then you're going to have a much better outlook in terms of just the immediate future in the playoffs.
This is why he's going to be fine, because he dropped 38 when Mitchell was out against the Bucks.
But Giannis also was out.
That's fine.
That doesn't happen
still
with Giannis.
Put up 38. And I
think Evan Mobley will be fine down the road. I'm just talking just this year. I need to see more out of him this year if this Cavs team wants to, start playing some consistent ball. It's about time. We got to see it.
I think until the offense goes through him, I don't think that's going to happen, man. I think his ceiling is limited with the current roster makeup, and with Mitchell 1, and even Garland is 2, and even Allen is, he had 22 tonight, right?
Allen did, yeah.
And so, I think until Allen's role is really, really diminished, and they are intentional about running it through him. The end game is Mobley runs point. That's where this is all going to lead to at some point, right? That's where this is heading to unlock Mobley, is Mobley running point.
Well, I think it's where it's going to lead to, maybe not so much the point, but if you're going to run the offense, he needs, and if he's going to, work on his perimeter shooting, that's where that's going to lead to.
Yeah. Well, I think we see with Wembanyama running point, right? It's going to happen.
But I don't think you can compare those two guys, because I don't think Evan Mobley is as athletic as Victor Wembanyama. Do you?
Oh yeah, I do. Yes.
I don't see it, man.
Have you seen how effortless Evan Mobley moves his footwork?
I see his footwork. I don't see it. I still think he's Bambi on ice out there.
I think he's way. I saw that last year. I don't see that as much this year.
That's fair, and I agree. The problem is it's still there.
I think he's way more decisive. I think he's attacking more, and I think it's just going to take a couple years for his muscle mass to continue to grow.
The kid is still growing too. Let's be real here. He's 21 years old. Just turned 21 in the last 6 months or so, and he's just growing into his body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as media and people and fans and people that cover it, I think we all are guilty of putting him too high, too fast.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for the immediate future, I need to see more out of Evan Mobley to help with this team if they want to win a playoff series and maybe sneak into a second round.
All these players have different skill sets, but the look of the slim, tall Kevin Durant figures, the Evan Mobleys, the Wembanyama's, that's different than how Giannis looks.
Well, Giannis looked like that when he came in the league, though.
He's a little yoked right now. Yeah.
I mean, you look at pictures of Giannis and you look at him now. Holy gosh, man, he doesn't even look the same guy. And the Cavs have done that with Evan. They've shown pictures to him and say, "Hey, this is what Giannis looked like, and we would like you to put kind of." I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Sure.
Hey, we want you to kind of get in this regimen here. This is what you are now, and this is what we want you to be. Now,
I'm not worried about Evan Mobley. I'm not worried about him this year. I'm not worried about him. He's going to be great. And Point Mobley is going to be that. That might be my next. I believe in Isaac Okoro as Point Mobley. That might be my next train right there.
I don't see Point Mobley happen when you got two small ball dominant guards and Garland and Sexton. It
won't be all. It'll be
Mitchell.
It'll be moments in games where they're just all right, Point Mobley. We need a bucket, and it's going to be Point Mobley. It's going do you realize and I go back to this, when we played the Celtics early in the year, Mitchell and Garland struggled to get shots off because they're so undersized.
Well, and it's also they were the first time they're playing each other. You know, it was like, what, the 5th game of the year?
They were so undersized. And you know who's not undersized? 7 foot, 9 foot tall Evan Mobley is not undersized. And I'm telling you, Point Mobley it's going to happen.
Well, we'll leave this pod on this. I will say this, Chase. I get what you mean, but you brought up something else about your concerns about this team not, getting far in the playoffs is the toughness.
Yep.
I need more toughness out of Evan Mobley. I need him to. I need that dog in him to come out.
Ooh.
Do that one more time for our listeners. There you go.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I'm all for it. I would love to see get angry.
You do a good woof. It's like from your Browns cheering days.
That's my first woof in. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
That's just been brewing and there. Yeah, I would love to see Evan Mobley just get fierce and mean, lay someone out, just get that reputation. But it's not him though.
Well, I need toughness out of him.
Yeah,
I need more. I need more Evan Mobley.
I'd rather have Point Mobley than toughness. No, I think I can't wait to see Point Mobley.
Okay, you want Point Mobley? I want more tough Mobley. I've never heard that.
I'm going to start Point Mobley. Like, have you heard that before?
No, it's the first time you said it.
I've never heard anyone say it.
I like how it just kind of came out organically from you, even though I don't necessarily see it happening.
Point Mobley, that better be a bullet point. And when you're promoting this pod,
Point Mobley.
Point Mobley. Yeah, let's get it going, man.
All right, Point Mobley it is. We'll put that on the feed. We'll put it out there. I want yoked Mobley to come.
Yoked Mobley. Nice.
In a couple years. That can't happen by the end of the season. That takes a couple off seasons to develop. Giannis didn't just happen one day. He didn't just go into an off season and gain like 50 pounds and look jacked. That took a couple off seasons.
Look,
all right, let's wrap it up here, man. Thank you for all you guys tuning in. Thank you if you haven't already to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. As Chase always says, we always follow back.
We always do.
Follow Chase at the Chase Smith on Twitter. Follow.
That's right. Hey, if you're on DraftKings, we have a press play group. You can join and see what everyone's betting, and you can tail bets, and you can post your bets. And so I'm looking forward to getting back in it. Here, the Super Bowl coming up. Gonna place a couple of fun bets there, and I will put some Mobley bets. I'll do some same game parlays on my boy Mobley. Especially if Mitchell's out, I think that's a good kind of place to go. Maybe we'll see. Point Mobley, give me Point Mobley, Kobe.
Point Mobley, Kobe. You know, it's interesting. You bring up that betting thing. That's fair. Like if Donovan's out, I would like to see what our sharks are going to say of what Mobley's numbers could be. That'd be fun to look at.
Point Mobley is. I'm bummed Sam and JIA couldn't be here for this.
Well, they'll listen to it. They always do. Follow yours truly at John_Sabol. Big thanks to the Press Play Podcast Network for getting this thing started. Thank you to DraftKings, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week as we get digging deeper in the very latest of the trade rumors involving your Cleveland Cavaliers. What moves can they make? Sam will be back next week with us. And Chase, it's your boy Mike Breen. Give it to us.
Take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.